As the maritime industry speeds towards decarbonization, the question is not if, nor when, it's how. My name is Andrea Hernandez, and I'm happy to host you today from Wärtsilä Helsinki campus. A brief safety moment before we get started. We hope everybody on the lines, our guests on the lines, are keeping safe. And just to let you know, we have no alarms planned here in Helsinki, so in case of an alarm, we will have to temporarily interrupt this streaming. Also, briefly, some practicalities. You will find on the event page where you are at the moment a Media Kit tab. In that Media Kit tab, you will find all the materials after our session today. And the recording of this event will be also available up until the end of May. In case you have media inquiries or want to book some interviews, please direct those questions to Marit Holmund-Sund. You find her details in the Book an Interview tab, which is also part of the event platform where you're at the moment. We will have a brief moment for questions and answers later on, and we have a fantastic group of panelists eager to answer your questions. So please feel free to type in your questions on the box of questions by inputting your name and your question. Later we will have available for questions and answers Rogan Holm, who is the president of Marine Power at Wärtsilä. We will have Stefan Nysjö, he is the vice president of power supply at Wärtsilä. Andrea Morgante, the Vice President Strategy of Marine Power. We have Juha Kytölä joining us. He is the Head of R&D and Engineering for Wärtsilä Marine Power. And Mikael Videskog, who is the Director of Sustainable Fuels and Decarbonization. So I think we're ready to get started. Our industry is experiencing unprecedented era of change. But we believe it's not an era of uncertainty. Actually, we are quite certain of the steps that need to be taken, and we also know that we must start acting now. We believe that in order to decarbonize the maritime industry, it will take more than technology. And we're here today to hear more about how Wärtsilä is supporting its customers on the path towards decarbonization. I would like to give a warm welcome right now to our CEO, Håkan Agnevall, to have some introductory words today. Welcome, Håkan.
Hello, Andrea. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. It's really nice that you're joining us today and on this really interesting and exciting topic.
Absolutely. Håkan, you joined us in February this year. Can you please give us a bit of your background, which actually inspires your leadership in Wärtsilä today?
My background is in power systems, it's in robotics, it's in trains, and I joined Wärtsilä from Volvo Buses, where I was the president of Volvo Buses. So a couple of red threads in my history, so to say. I've really had the privilege to see how new technology is transforming industries. And then on the commercial vehicle side, we see how new fuels, electromobility and other fuels is transforming autonomous solutions and connectivity. And we see these, I would say, megatrends, technology megatrends. They are now very much starting to impact both energy and the marine side, also in Wärtsilä's core industry, so to say. So really had the privilege, and I'm really passionate about the opportunities, the challenges, but also the opportunities that the new technology creates and the transformation we will go through. The other theme for me is I've had the privilege to work and live in different parts of the world, in Asia, in North and South America, and in Europe, and working with different cultures, working in teams. It's always been also a passion of mine. And then the third element, I've had the privilege throughout my career to lead businesses with a lot of technology content. And I think this intersection between technology, people and society, this is really something that I think is interesting. And here I see Wärtsilä being very well positioned in the big technology transitions that are coming. Because I would say there's going to be more happening in the maritime and energy sectors the coming 10 years compared to the previous 30 years. And it's all driven by the technology shifts that are coming. And it's also driven by one of the most important questions of our time, and that is, of course, decarbonization, to create a sustainable future. And what is really exciting about Wärtsilä, we can really make a major difference in the industries that we are in. So it's a privilege to join Wärtsilä.
Absolutely, we're very happy to have you on board. What have you heard from our customers? What are the most important challenges today?
I would say on the maritime side, everybody is looking about decarbonization and of course to create sustainable, which is good for the environment. It needs to be financially viable, and it needs to have the right social dimensions. And the challenge is as it's not when, we need to do it now. Regulations are changing to support the decarbonization journey, but we also see that people that buy transport, they want to have green solutions, because everybody is working on decarbonizing their value chain, and transport logistics is a very important part of that value chain. So it's very much focused on finding those way forward. And the difference from going forward is that there will not be one simple solution. There will be different alternative fuels, there will be different ways how to operate. And that is, of course, a challenge for many of our customers on the maritime side. And it also, those decisions on fuels and vessels become highly strategic. And those decisions involves not only the technical and operational department these days, it involves the board, the CEO level, and the whole ecosystem of the maritime industry, quite frankly. And here, as Wärtsilä, I think we can play a role as a speaking partner. We are a credible name in the industry, and we also have a breadth in our knowledge, technology knowledge, but also breadth in our offering, so to say.
Final question for you, Håkan. What will it take to succeed in decarbonization?
I think that, of course, there is a technology component, and it is about cutting-edge fuel technologies, it's about fuel flexibility, it's about digital solutions and how we integrate them in making an efficient maritime industry. But it's much more than technology, because it's also putting this new technology operation. It needs to work. It needs to have the right uptime reliability. It needs the right support. And here the people component is so important. I mean, having the right people working, supporting the technology all over the globe to provide uptime reliability, and also potentially to change the way we do businesses, looking at more performance-based agreements where a company like Wärtsilä can support the maritime industries in guaranteeing performance, quite frankly. So it's much more technology.
And we're just set up for a very exciting journey here in Wärtsilä. Thank you, Håkan, for joining us today. I would like to now welcome Roger Holm to the stage. Roger will be talking about creating a commercially viable path towards decarbonization.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Håkan. Thank you, Andrea, and good afternoon and welcome also from my side. I'm really happy to see this many people joining us over the lines. As we focus on decarbonization, I will be walking you through some of the challenges that decarbonization poses for maritime, but also some of the opportunities it presents. I will be exploring how we at Wärtsilä are creating viable pathways to help our customers navigate the decarbonization landscape, and ultimately, how we are transforming challenges into opportunities. We often hear that times are uncertain. We in Wärtsilä have come to see this slightly differently. While many aspects of decarbonization are indeed unknown, enough is certain to act now. Certainties exist, and we are prepared to advise our key stakeholders to make the right decisions. Over the last 20 to 30 years, the maritime industry has been marked not by radical change, but more by incremental improvement, as was referred to by Håkan already earlier. But with the introduction of the IMO 2030 and 2050 targets, the industry has had to step up the sustainability game and shift gears in how we move towards these ambitious targets. And this means that a clear trend has started to emerge. What is clear here is that time is of essence. The longer we wait to decarbonize the global fleet, the steeper the climb will be, both from a technology but also from a financial standpoint. This is why the maritime value chain is accelerating towards decarbonization and incentivizing owners to act. This can be split into two categories, as we can see on the screen that we have ahead of us here. The first is led by legislation, and the second is led by the market. The trend for legislation is twofold, addressing both new and existing vessels. Design indices such as EEXI for existing vessels and EEDI for new vessels are putting the pressure on the owners to consider the environmental compliance of their vessels as well as their fleet. By enforcing the EEXI and EEDI, the regulatory bodies are forcing the owners and ensuring the environmental compliance is a cornerstone of their investment strategy. Then there are also market pressure, which is pushing the owners to decarbonize. This can be seen here on the right-hand side of this picture. These indices regulate an owner's access to capital by tying it to how environmentally friendly their operations are, by allowing owners to measure the carbon footprint of their fleet. With the creation of schemes to facilitate the access of capital and also for refinancing the ship owners, such as the Poseidon principles, access to finance and revenue becomes closely tied to environmental performance. This means that for the first time ever, fleet owners will have to prove that their vessels are operating in the most environmental friendly way possible by measuring themselves against standards that are provided by these indices. The maritime industry is facing an era of unseen change, like we referred to earlier, but change will not happen overnight. We know this well because if we take LNG as an example, the maritime transition for LNG has been a 20-year process, and today we see a point where we have 1 to 2% of the fleet can run at LNG, even if we can see also that a lot of the new build vessels today in the pipeline are going for LNG. But this is to reflect a bit on the history and the size of the change. If we are now to achieve the IMO 2050 targets, we need to transition the fleet to run on a different fuel, where we talk about the transition of the fleet that is going to be 60 to 100% of a different fuel by 2050. This is just in 30 years' time. This is an enormous change for the industry. And it's also something that has never been done in the history of the maritime. So it's clear that the time is running and the time to act is now. According to a recent DNV survey, they have estimated that as many as up to 30,000 vessels will have to face recertification in 2023 in order to comply with the EEXI index. This means that owners today are faced with a critical decision about the investments they make, as it is no longer a question of if or when. The need for investments is very clear, and then we need to look at what is the how. This is where uncertainty of the future landscape is causing owners to stop in their tracks, unsecure on how to move ahead. We understand the risk, we know how to mitigate the risk and how to transform this challenge. And understand what does the decarbonization pose for the owners and what are actually the real opportunities for them. We believe that we have the solutions that can turn these uncertainties into certainties. De-risking the investments for the ship owners or even repositioning the fleet is a journey which needs to be done gradually. We believe it's not only our duty but also our passion to make sure that we are part of this change. This is why we want to work together with our customers to co-create tailor-made decarbonization strategies together with our customers. And our approach allows for open and honest conversation in which we can apply our expertise and seek out the best possible solution for our customers, helping them to take the first steps along the decarbonization journey. Because this will be a journey, and it will be a journey that will last for quite many years. As you can see, there are the 3 steps in this approach. The first is to assess the fleet. Here we can make the careful analysis of the current fleet, measuring every vessel against the relevant indices, making sure that we have a clear understanding of what actions needs to be taken. Secondly, to work with the customers to define their ambitions. At this stage, we definitely would work together to create a plan for compliance, set specific measurable growth targets. And finally, to create a decarbonization strategy. For this, we can simulate solutions, map out the customized offering for retrofits, looking at new builds that enables the customers to bridge the gap between the state of their current fleet and their long-term growth plans. As I said, we believe that collaboration and partnership are key to help the industry to decarbonize. No one can do this alone. We have the solutions, the necessary experience and expertise that make us an ideal partner for our customers as they embark on this decarbonization journey. Technology continues to evolve at a rapid rate, making it an increasingly complex endeavor for our customers to decipher. We are here to help and advise on what is the best option for their vessels and their fleet. And to make it clear, there is no silver bullet for this solution. It's rather a combination of different solutions that will deliver the desired outcome. This is where our know-how, knowledge and expertise comes into play. We have the capability to advise our customers on a variety of solutions, ranging from engine optimization to fuel flexibility, electrification, and energy-saving devices. We can take into account a number of parameters, including the vessel typology, age, operating profile, as well as the owner's decarbonization ambition. This means we can help to identify the right solution for a single vessel or for an entire fleet. This isn't limited to technical solutions. Our agreements follow the same methodology to produce and analyze the best options based on segment, customer operating profile, and risk appetite, allowing us to provide a tailor-made solution that guarantees an outcome for our customers. What we see here is a representation on how we work with our customers, making a tailor-made path to decarbonization, involving picking the right solution for each vessel and specifying the correct mix of technologies. Although the cases change, the end result is always the same, a fully fledged decarbonization strategy, tailor-made for the customer's fleet to first meet 2030 target, secondly 2050, and then going beyond 2050. For the existing fleet, this means that it's about extending the life of these vessels to meet the next waves of legislation. For new build, it means ensuring to have the fuel flexibility, the storage built in to accommodate upgrading to green fuels, and making sure that you can meet the compliance targets and mitigate the business risks. Now I would like to hand over to Juha Kytölä for the next part of the presentation. Please, Juha.
Thank you, Roger. It's a pleasure being here. If we hope to meet the 2030 and 2050 targets, we need to act now. Although we don't have an all-encompassing solution that could help to decarbonize the maritime today, we do have several which can act as a stepping stone. The race to decarbonize maritime is a marathon, not a sprint. And as Synnöve from Knudsen OAS Shipping quite rightly points out here, there are things we can do now. Technology is already available, which will give us a head start towards our zero emissions objective. We believe that the internal combustion engine offers the most promising path towards complete decarbonization of the bulk of the fleet in operation today. There are many aspects that need to be taken into account and in consideration when moving forward. Bio and hydrogen-based fuels are essential, and indeed the fuel availability is the key factor. There will be variations due to local regulations and feedstock, and the production capacities and existing infrastructure are important. Additionally, there is an impact on the CapEx and OpEx. The carbon neutral fuels typically require existing equipment to be modified, at least for some of the fuels, and those fuels are likely to be more expensive than the fossil fuels, at least as initially when being taken into use. Vessel structure also needs to be considered. Many of the carbon neutral fuels will have a lower volumetric energy density compared to heavy fuel oil and LNG, and therefore require larger tanks to maintain the vessel endurance. Complexity might also come into question with some of the fuels. Some might require more cryogenic handling and storaging, and even some have challenges with its toxic nature. Therefore, rules and regulations to be complied with. As a final point, shipyard capacity may come into question as well. There is a mismatch possibly with the number of ships that need to have further modifications and compared to the shipyards capable of handling the fuel conversion work or the machinery conversions in the whole in commercial fleet. Next one then, please. About the certainty in transition, we know that the infrastructures are not yet available for many of the fuel choices that the industry may eventually subscribe to. A variety of fuels will come into use also depending on the region and the use case. Those green synthetic fuels are not expected to become widely available to the shipping industry until close to 2040, whilst bio-based may come already earlier. Transition fuels, where a good example is natural gas as in form of LNG, along with fuel blends, are seen as the first step towards decarbonizing maritime. What we thus know is that multi-fuel technology is here already today and available. Therefore, combustion engines offer an enormous potential for even a rapid carbon emission reduction. Fuel flexible engine technology gives an upgrade path for both existing and also for new vessels from transition fuels further then to green fuels. In other words, a decision made to support the short term today can also pay off in the long term. And next, please. We in Wärtsilä are investing continuously in development of new technology, and our future fuel roadmap is illustrated here. The first fuel being highlighted is methane, which is also what LNG, the natural gas is, but also available in bio or synthetic form. Methane is methane. And this is something where technologies are already available, and when using an LNG suited vessel, bio or synthetic sources of methane can be easily adopted into. The next fuel in the roadmap is methanol. Methanol also has already been introduced to the market. Wärtsilä has done a retrofit for a ship with methanol running on based on an previous generation engines, Jet A40 engines, and we are currently moving further forward for introducing this technology to the relevant portfolio engines according to the market interest and the needs. Third fuel is ammonia. Ammonia is a fuel which is carbon free and therefore very interesting for the future. We already have technologies which are suitable for to be used with ammonia, and the needed combustion concepts to maximize engine performance and related safety technologies are being investigated here as we speak. Hydrogen then is also a carbon-free fuel. We already have a possibility to introduce hydrogen as a blend up to 20% in volume to engines running on natural gas. And we are further studying concepts to bring the share of the hydrogen higher up even to full use. Our further future efforts in this direction are directed towards maximizing engine performance. Next one, please. Short-term decision with long-term benefits. A holistic approach to a vessel design with the right players at the table. This is of key importance to that vessel's future fuels possibilities. For example, a stainless steel vacuum insulated LNG pack, the storage tank, besides being able then to storage LNG, can also be used for storing ammonia, methanol, or synthetic methane. So it's important to know these consequences and opportunities what result on early reaction. In addition to our fuel flexible power solutions, our cooperation with vessel designers can guarantee further the desired outcome. And next, please. Wärtsilä has been pioneering in the markets technologies for new fuels. We have the technology, the know-how, the people and the passion to deliver on this promise. In 1995, we introduced the dual-fuel engine using low-pressure gas and combined fuel flexibility with environmental performance and fuel efficiency. This meant that we could introduce concepts for using LNG, liquefied natural gas, to the marine market. In early 2015, we converted the world's first vessel to run on methanol as a marine fuel. This year, we will demonstrate an engine running on ammonia, firstly starting with 40% ammonia with the engine there in the background in this picture. This is one of the future fuels closest to utilization in maritime, and we will rapidly scale up our tests continuing to 2022 next year. This ammonia testing is being currently planned and performed in Vaasa in Finland as its first of its kind in history. And with developments like this, we are truly shaping the decarbonization possibilities for our customers. Then I would like to hand back to Roger. Roger, please.
Thank you, Juha, and exciting times we have ahead of us, both as a company but also as a maritime industry. In many ways, our approach to decarbonization, it's totally about entirely new ways of working. It's a new playing field. It's to work together with our customers in a different way and partner overall in a way of doing business. We are prepared to guarantee an outcome and share the risks together with our customers. We can reduce the complexity, deliver peace of mind, and allow our customers to concentrate on their core business. We can expand the revenue by reducing unscheduled maintenance, downtime, minimizing operational expenses by guaranteeing fuel consumption and emission reductions. The end result is a set of jointly agreed targets and outcomes guaranteed. And if we look at the history a bit, our agreements have a proven track record of generating both operational expenses savings and emission reductions. If we look at a few examples here on this slide, a performance-based agreement with a cruise customer has generated up to 12 million in fuel savings per year. A lifecycle agreement for a fleet of LNG carriers has reduced unplanned maintenance costs by up to close to 70% over a 2 years period. Similarly, through a combination of increased time between overhauls, minimizing interruption and downtime in operations, the same customer have received benefits of close to 40 million in combined savings. These are just a few examples of the potentials that our agreements can unlock for our customers. So what does success look like for our customers then in the end? That reality is that success looks different for different customers. As said before, there is no silver bullet solution. A fleet owner begin to look at the decarbonization journey in a way where they are faced with, you can call it the 3 C's, the complexity, the compliance and the cost. If we start with the complexity part, you have a diverse fleet of vessels, all requiring different solutions to meet compliance and future needs. For the compliance part, the maritime value chain will force the industry, the owners, into the compliance and push the decarbonization by tying both their access to finance as well as the revenue closely to environmental performance. And going back to the last C, then the cost part, you will have the operational risk associated both with the CapEx and the OpEx part. Successfully navigating these will take more than technology, as we have referred to a lot already before. These 3 steps represent our belief that success is based on collaboration. In the beginning, it's all about leveraging our experience and expertise to map out the journey together with the customer. When we then guide customers through the initial stages of meeting compliance needs, in effect, a license to remain in business with the needed compliance targets is developed. Once this is taken care of, the opportunity stage begins, expanding the revenues, minimizing expenses, and delivering on the guaranteed outcomes. It is a complex process, one that takes more than enabling technology. This is what we call the partnership model together with our customers. We all understand that we are living through an era of extremely big changes, but this will not be defined as such by uncertainty. It will be defined by certainties and actions, and we need to act now, as we have said before. If we want to bring about the change and be in control of the change, this is something where we need to act immediately. We are extremely proud to be part of an already efficient maritime industry from an environmental point of view. It's already today the most environmental way to transport goods compared to other means. We know that the change will be extremely fast during the coming 10 years. It will be a change of a speed that we have never ever seen before in the maritime industry. And this is something we are happy to partner up with stakeholders in the maritime industry. It's something where we as Wärtsilä are extremely proud to be part of this journey in the maritime industry and be part of the decarbonization development in the coming years. Thank you all for listening, and now I will hand back to Andrea for helping us with the Q&A.
Thank you, Roger. So back to the stage here. It's time for a Q&A session. We have a couple of minutes available for that. So if you do have questions, type the questions in the question box and leave your name, and we will answer those right now. Otherwise, if you are going to have an interview session later on, you can also wait to give the questions directly to our experts later on. So we have a couple of questions lining up here. First one is from Carl Jeffrey from Tanker Operator. This question I will ask Mikael Videskog from Sustainable Fuels and Decarbonization to answer. And that is, what are the disadvantages of ammonia as a fuel if made from gas production to hydrogen with carbon capture? It seems like the best possible solution, if it can work at a reasonable cost, of course, not to compete with other uses of renewable power, and seems to be easy enough to carry. Mikael, would you comment on that one, please?
Thank you. Very good and valid question. Of course, in a way, it's unfair to talk about the drawbacks of ammonia, because it is just about to enter the stage as a fuel. But if I list a few drawbacks or challenges with ammonia, it's one of them is the low volumetric energy density. So in practice, it means that you would need bigger tanks, or then you would need to increase the bunkering frequency. So that can be overcome. The green ammonia is not available yet. All the ammonia in the world is based on fossil fuel. So that when green ammonia starts to occur, of course, one option is to start to blend it into existing fuels in small quantities when it starts to be available. The third thing is the toxicity of the fuel. So it's not healthy for human beings, and you will need to continue, and we are working with the classification societies to have the rules and regulations in place to allow the ammonia as a fuel. And then, of course, it has a higher cost as it is produced from sustainable hydrogen and nitrogen. So these are the, let's say, the drawbacks or the challenges.
Thank you very much, Mikael. We have another question coming in from Astrid from Shipping Watch magazine. Astrid is asking a question that I will direct to Juha Kytölä actually. Juha, could you tell a bit more about our ammonia engine? How many engines do you expect in the industry by 2021 and in which ship?
Well, as what we communicated just, we are the first one to start operation of a real engine with ammonia as a fuel. And we are using the combustion technologies that we already have developed, and then we apply those to ammonia. This means that we are not starting from a very low level of maturity, but we can work further. And as Mikael Wiedeskog just said, we are at the same time also working with the classification societies to develop the safety concepts, which we are bringing forward. Being said that, and starting the running of an engine with first with an ammonia blend and then going further towards higher grade of ammonia, we are not planning to introduce this fuel to the markets yet. So that will be taking some time, but we are very confident that within our test program now taking shape in this year, continuing to next year, and then passing forward on with our partners then in Norway and with an installation of a further test engine there. In this program, we are coming very close to having then the first pilot installations coming in the nearby years.
Thank you, Juha. We have another question that I will ask Andrea Morgante to answer for us today. This one is from Jonas Kuikka from Lännen Media. What is the method for producing enough hydrogen fuel for the maritime traffic in the future? Can you say a bit more about how much risk you take? Is it 50-50 or more, or hard to say? Sorry, I think I'm mixing up actually two questions,
Okay,
because
yeah,
this one just came in the last minute. So it says, so I repeat again, what is the method for producing enough hydrogen fuel for the maritime traffic in the future? Will it be safe to use hydrogen when you think about the possibility of an explosion with the use of ammonia during a sea voyage?
Ammonia or hydrogen?
Hydrogen.
Okay, so you're making my life difficult. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Methods for producing hydrogen. Well, actually, I'd like to, before going there, I would like to say that hydrogen production is key to anything related to green fuels. I mean, green fuels either come from hydrogen or from biomass, essentially. So hydrogen production is key. Now, it's debatable if it will be used as is or as part of hydrogen carrier like ammonia, methanol, and so forth. The production of hydrogen is based today on well-known technologies. In the future, I would say that we have two possible scenarios. One is, now talking about green hydrogen, the key scenario is to use renewable electricity. So actually, we've also been part of an exciting project called ZEEDS in Norway, where we, together with several partners, we looked at ways of producing hydrogen and ammonia as a carrier offshore, harnessing the power of wind for the electricity required for the production of hydrogen. Another way of producing the future fuels, which is normally referred to as a blue option, is to pump a natural gas from the ground, use current pipelines to take it to a facility where you strip it from the CO2, and then you pump the CO2 back underground. So essentially combining carbon capture technology on large scale, what you obtain then is a carbon neutral fuel. I think both are very interesting, and I think we'll see both coming to the market. As a matter of fact, in countries like Norway, there are projects running on both, exploring already both angles of the production. And I think that's very interesting because that will accelerate the arrival of these fuels on the market. Now, when it comes to using hydrogen as a fuel on board of a ship, as all the alternative fuels, there are pros and cons, and there are complications in relation with the handling of the fuel. Hydrogen today in a vessel is considered to be used either in a compressed form, typically 350 bar, or in liquefied form. The disadvantage of the compressed form is that, of course, the volume you can carry is limited. The disadvantage of the liquid form is the temperatures you have to use. We are speaking about minus 253 degrees, which is, let's say, colder than anything ever put on a vessel so far. I mean, LNG is 160, minus 160. So when it comes to the risk of explosion, and safety in general, this is where the collaboration with classification societies will be extremely important. Because I would say safety is always achievable. The question is, what is the cost of setting up a plant that makes operation on that specific fuel safe? I think that's at least the way I would look at it. Both the liquid option and the compressed options have pros and cons, and I think that's why, as a company, we say that right now it's essential that owners team up with OEMs and other players in the ecosystem to sort out all these things together. It's really a question of then looking what is the most economical path in adopting these fuels.
Thank you very much, Andrea. There's a couple of questions actually for Roger, so glad to have you here on stage today. This one actually is coming from Carl Jeffrey from Tanker Operator. What are the benefits of methanol as a future fuel? I understand that on a greenhouse basis, it's not better than that LNG, basically. A separate but related question. This one comes from Nick Ekström from the Motorship. Can you provide more detail about the plans to introduce a methanol-fueled engine into your engine portfolio?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think if we start from methanol, the benefits with methanol today, if we go to the green methanol part, when that becomes more available, is that we have the technology already existing for using the green methanol. So from an ease point of view, this is a fairly easy starting point from a timeline perspective. And that's also connecting to the other question, because as it was already stated by Juha, we have had an engine running out there since 2015 on methanol, and we are further enhancing this technology. But the technology is there, and we can already today use it if there are needs. I think here we come into the chicken and egg thing on the future fuels, because there is definitely interest to start going towards these fuels, but then you need to have the fuels available with the technology that supports it. So this from our point of view, I think this is the fuel we see moving fastest forward now, if we assume that LNG is a quite normal fuel already in the maritime industry. So methanol is very much the next step.
Thank you, Roger. Another one for you. It sounds like a major step that you accept ship owners' risk on decarbonization. So can you say a bit more about the risks that we take in Wärtsilä? And then here was what got me mixed up. Is it a 50-50 or more risk that we take?
Yeah, thank you. This is a really good question, and let's put it like that. This is not something new for us. We have already for quite many years done risk sharing with our customers. Maybe more from a fuel consumption point of view and an uptime point of view that has been relevant. But we see this is more and more going towards also the emission part. But of course, you have a tight connection here between fuel consumption and emission. Talking then about the risk sharing, I don't think any standard agreement applies here. All customers are different, all fleets are different. As mentioned already earlier, there is no silver bullet, and this applies for the agreement side as well. It depends a bit on the customer's operating model. What is important for the customer? We know the technology and the risks the best, and that's where we can help the customers in a way where we can make sure that their business runs in the best possible way. Risk sharing can then be 50-50 if that was the question. It can also be something else, but that depends a lot on the customer's needs in their business. And at least how we see it today, there will be thanks to the needs in the decarbonization, there will be definitely an accelerated need around different type of agreements going forward.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. There's another question. It's addressed to Roger as well. How complete is the offering and product portfolio of Wärtsilä to meet the decarbonization market needs? Is there something missing?
First of all, I think we need to take a humble approach towards decarbonization. I don't think anyone knows today, first of all, exactly what will be the fuels in which regions and by which year. It will be a development that we all need to walk through. That same thing applies for technology. What will be the part of the engines and the fuel flexibility? What will be the part of optimizing using data technology, optimizing the route? Energy saving devices, you have Flettner rotors, you have air lubrication, you have propulsion optimization. And then for sure we also see hybrids, full electric batteries coming in. In the long run, we might also see fuel cells coming into the picture, and for sure there are pilots already out there, and a mix of all of these. For us, I think it's important to know all of these and how we can support our customers to make the best solutions for their specific vessel. And I'm sure we will learn a lot along the way, but the key item is it's not anymore a good way to say let's wait and see, because the ramp-up curve will be extremely steep to meet the 2050 targets. It's to start moving, it's to learn along the way, and we will learn together.
Thank you very much. I will rephrase a question from Carl Jeffrey. This time I will address it to Andrea Morgante. Is methanol any better than LNG in terms of greenhouse gases?
Well, it depends very much on what kind of methanol you're referring to. If you're referring to the existing form of methanol, I would say LNG has a better performance. If we're talking green methanol, of course, obviously that is way better. Green methanol would be carbon neutral. One could also argue that at the same point you could have biomethane or synthetic methane. Then, just to put the elephant on the table, I would assume that when somebody asks a question like this, is also thinking about methane slip, and obviously that is something to be considered, and that's why we have made investments and to secure that problem is resolved.
Thank you very much, Andrea. There's no further questions on the lines here, so I suggest that we start wrapping up this event right now. Any final words from your side, Roger?
No, I would just say we have an exciting journey ahead of us all together. I would like to thank everyone for joining, for the interest in the journey of decarbonization. It will be something that we have not really seen before in shipping that will happen during the next 10 years. It will be really exciting. So thank you everyone for being part of that journey together with us. Thank you for the good questions that came in. and let's stay tuned for further discussions later on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day.